Hey, this is Sahil. You're listening to the Studio 21 show, where I walk and talk with the people designing the Bitcoin products that we use every single day. My hope is that through these casual, walking, flowing conversations, we're actually on a trail in Riga in this conversation. My hope is that you get real-world insights on the people who are in the trenches every day. So today we have Erik from Hoseki. He's worked a bunch of eCash stuff. He's working on a lot of cool Bitcoin stuff. So I think it's a really interesting conversation. Join me on my walk and talk with Erik. We're walking here in Riga on the lake.
That's right.
Last time I was walking with Paul in Austin on the river. So now we're at a new river here. And it's actually nice and quiet, so I'm happy about that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, how's your Riga been so far? I feel like it's a beautiful city from a design architecture point of view. I feel like, yeah. What do you think so far?
Well, it's my third time in Riga. It's my third third honey badger. So it's not my first rodeo.
That's true.
I love coming here. I love the Baltics. I'm a huge Baltic fan. I think their history is really fascinating. They have like good architecture, and they're really anti-communist. Which I absolutely love.
You love that. Okay.
Yeah.
I believe that. So I guess for anyone listening, if anyone's listening, I didn't know that you live in Europe basically. So
I do, yeah.
And that's public knowledge.
Yeah,
I'm not
sure.
doxing you by saying that. Yeah, how's that been like from a just beauty? Because it's got to be very different from you're from the U.S.
I'm from the U.S. Yeah, so, I'm from D.C. I'm from Nova, which is like highway capital.
Highway capital.
Yeah, 495, 395. These massive.
Yeah.
Massive highways. I don't know if it's the capital highways, but we have massive highways. And moving to Europe, it's almost like a meme when you come across, we were talking a little bit about it, the aesthetic accounts or the urban planning accounts and how cities should be walkable and they should be designed to scale and they should fit human proportions. And I've been living in Europe for about 4 years, and the city I live in, Stockholm, Sweden, and they're especially good at that. And I love it. I mean, it's a much greater quality of life when I can just get up and just walk everywhere I have to go. And there's not any monstrosities of buildings there are, but they're outside of the city center or the city area that I live in. And just being surrounded by these old buildings that are beautiful, aesthetically pleasing, that are rich in history, it does a lot. I'm very happy.
I feel like it's gotta inspire people. I mean, you in particular, but also other people. It's gotta add to the taste and culture of just your creativity, probably, right? I mean, it's.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, how can it not? I'm very inspired by just get to walk around and be surrounded by these beautiful buildings and I don't know, these parks and green spaces that they've invested in. I dig it, man. It's
even just in Riga, I'm just comparing it to Austin.
Yeah.
Where everything is so new. All the buildings were built in the last 5 years.
Austin is a monstrosity. I can't believe how ugly that city was.
I hate to say it. Oh, you were there?
Yeah, I was there once, and they have that supervillain building that looks like. It's that big building with the sharp.
Frost. Yeah.
Dude, I haven't seen anything that horrific in my life. I can't imagine having to look at that every day.
That's so funny because I think a lot of people say that's the best one because it's built in the 70s or it's what's the word?
Is it Art Deco?
Art Deco. I think they call it Art Deco. So, also, I wonder if we can go straight here.
I think so. There's a walkway up there.
Cool. But yeah, man. So one thing I was trying to look up about you. I was trying to see what your history was. How did you get into design? What's your path look like? And then what were the jumping points, that kind of thing? How did that work?
So I guess I started off, I'll go really far back because it's kind of in the weeds podcast, but when I was in second or third grade, me and my brother illegally downloaded some software called JSIC Paint Shop Pro 7, I think it was. You remember this?
No, I don't actually.
Okay. It was very primitive design software. Maybe it was Photoshop or something, but you used to be able to do things on there. So I was playing with that, and I used to play a game called ARC, Attack, Retrieve, Capture. It was a it was a 2D shooter. I was on forums and stuff, and I figured out that you can modify the skins of the little spaceships you control by opening up, I think it was a bitmap file, a BMP.
Yeah.
So I opened up that file and I would load it into Microsoft Paint or JSIC Paint Shop Pro, and I would sit there with a little pixel brush, and I would basically change the pixels of the ships, and then when I saved that file, it would update in the game real time, and that was mind blowing to me as a kid. So that was my first kind of introduction to digital design and making things that I want. So I guess fast forward, I always had an interest in that. I started downloading Photoshop CS2, I think was the first Photoshop that I pirated. So I don't know, you can look up the date on that. So this kind of kept going on when I was in middle school and high school. I used to design websites for my friends. a lot of them had music, and like I would just design websites. I would design like their album covers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So eventually this led me, to digital design and UX design.
One thing I gotta say real quick, I feel like total imposter syndrome because I didn't do any of this. I was like on Android, I was like making custom ROMs and like messing with things, and
well, that's even more of like digital design than I was.
I guess in some sense, yeah.
So I come from like a graphic design tradition.
Oh,
really.
So that's interesting. Okay, so
yeah,
more of the graphic design background.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely how I started.
Wow. So that impacted all this early stuff you were doing, like the websites,
that got me competent in digital design. So I used to design like signatures for people on forums and stuff like that. So that's how I learned like the basics of like using Photoshop, of like vectors and like like blur effects, and just like becoming familiar with like blending modes, like when to use dark and overlay. And not that you use those terribly a lot in UX design, but it's all kind of related.
Yes.
So that got me familiar with that stuff. And I guess I got into Bitcoin kind of like as like a separate interest, really. But Bitcoin was just a place where like I can combine both of them. My interest in design and my interest in Bitcoin as a piece of software, as technology.
Gotcha. And then so from there, because I know you're working on a bunch of things. I mean, you're at Hoseki, you have a bunch of other stuff going on. You're working on eCash. What is that path from your initial start to working at a company, working on side projects, all this kind of stuff? Like, where does that come from? It doesn't just go from 0 to 100.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
well, it comes from my interest in like peer-to-peer file sharing. So, like, kind of related as I was growing up online.
Because you downloaded the thing.
So I was downloading that software, and I was downloading music. Like I was on Napster. Like I literally was like on, and I was like really young to be on that. I was like in 2nd or 1st grade. I was downloading like Linkin Park songs on Napster.
I may or may not have partaken in LimeWire.
Like LimeWire, Morpheus, Kazaa, like you name it. I was on that stuff
for sure.
But eventually, torrents came around. I don't remember when I discovered torrents. But that was really what kickstarted me into this world of peer-to-peer file transfers, because from torrents I became very interested in private trackers, which were like curated torrent communities where the people were very, very specific about what could be uploaded, what are the rules, what are the quality. I was on a site called what.cd that was like the Library of Alexandria for music, and they were very strict about what you could upload. And I got very good at that site. I got very good at using software to like rip 24-bit FLAC files like all the way down into different encodings with the right metadata organization and stuff like that. So I come from this like tradition of like file sharing, of peer-to-peer transfers. And I think more importantly, like within that website, there was a system of like credits where like if people wanted you to upload a rare album or something, they would pay you in the form of like a bounty, like an upload bounty.
Oh.
So there was this economy that developed very naturally on this private tracker where people would trade these upload credit points for digital data. So this kind of primed me for Bitcoin. This made it very natural for me to understand why peer-to-peer electronic money was valuable.
Yes.
Because I came from a community that valued peer-to-peer information and then assigned an economic value to it naturally. So like Bitcoin was just this place where I felt like all these kind of things in my life just kind of led up to like the perfect like culmination of like an intersection of interest.
It is weird, right? Because I kind of feel the same way in that like you have all these weird kind of techie interests, but then you also have like I don't know if you feel this way, but like you have a innate sense of what is good design, or maybe you built that, you cultivated that over time.
Yeah.
But now you combine all that together, and then you find this perfect niche that like nobody else is doing.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just weird that it ends up that way.
It's so bizarre how it's just like at the intersection of like the things that I'm passionate about and things that I'm good at.
Yeah, I mean, so maybe it's worth asking, and I know we were talking about this, but like, and again, I don't mean what is design in like the conferencey way, like getting up on a talk, but what is it to you? What do you think about design when you're working on your companies and your eCash side projects, or if some normie asks you, like, what are you doing? Like, what is it to you?
So I think like the two major elements of it are, the obvious one is how does something look, like visually, aesthetics. It's a huge part of design. So usually like when I explain what I do, I talk about how I basically map how everything should look in software. But what I also do is I also think about how you as a person that interacts with this software, how you feel about it, and try to account for the different situations that you might find yourself. and try to design something that makes it so that it's pleasant for you as you try to do whatever you do.
Yes.
So the key part there, I think, is that it's solving a problem. Like, it's utilitarian in that way, where it's not just like aesthetics for the sake of aesthetics. It's also about, like, are you able to solve the problem, but in a pleasant way, like in a way that is enjoyable? Because that's what separates, I think, good design from bad design, is like, good design has that little element of magic, or like an enjoyable experience when you try to do whatever it is you did.
I love that you said that, because a lot of people give the typical answer of like, oh yeah, it's not how it looks, it's how it works, and like that's true. But people, I think, miss a lot of the answer about like the feel. It's like, how do I feel? It should be pleasant. Yeah, I mean, so I was thinking about the Bitcoin stuff you're working on. So there's eCash and there's Hoseki.
Yeah.
How do you think about the feel for those two things? Because those are both of them are highly, highly technical things.
Yeah, they're both highly technical, and they're for very different audiences too. Well, kind of, I guess.
I think so. I think that's fair to say.
What I think a lot about Hoseki is like it's really institutional. It's very much when I design for Hoseki, for people that don't know, like I work at Hoseki, which is a Bitcoin company that's focused on proof of reserves and attestation, which basically means that publicly traded companies or ETF issuers can prove that they hold the amount of Bitcoin that they say they have. And there's different methods that they can prove it, whether that's through posting their addresses on chain, signing a message to prove that they have control over these addresses, revealing which custodian owns what percentage of their Bitcoin. So right off the bat, when you hear something like that, I think it sounds like very audity. It sounds like in the world of kind of like accounting and like these financial terms, like proof of reserves, proof of assets, proof of liabilities. I didn't know what any of this was, so I started working on there. And it's very institutional. Like, these are very common and well-covered fields in the world of finance, traditional finance, but not so much in Bitcoin. I think a lot of people just started hearing about proof of reserves in Bitcoin after FTX imploded a couple years ago. Yeah. So when I design for Hoseki, I kind of have to keep an institutional client base in mind. So to me, that's like, I think, a very muted color palettes. I use a lot of slate, a lot of whites, a lot of grays.
And how do you personally figure that out? Like, do you like mood board stuff and look at other adjacent things, like maybe institutional fintech? Or like, what do you do?
I mean, I definitely do like mood boards and analysis. But even like before I came to Hoseki, I worked at Accenture Federal Services, which was like, we did government contracting. So we did software for U.S. government clients. And what I learned kind of very early on there is that these people don't like bells and whistles. They don't even like dark mode. They don't want something cool. Things that are really cool and sleek actually make them feel uncomfortable. They want something that looks like Salesforce. They want something that looks like Microsoft. And this is what makes them comfortable, because a lot of them are older and they're also dealing with like, whatever, U.S. Coast Guard inspection records. Yeah. They don't want some glassmorphic UI with like rounded edges and like a clear background. That actually turns them off. They're like, what is this? Like, so
which a younger designer might get kind of annoyed by. They're like, I want to do the cool thing. I want to put it on Dribble.
Exactly. So I learned kind of from them that you can't really do the cool thing for these kind of products. Like, it has to be kind of targeted towards a different consumer. And I don't think Hoseki is that lame, but I think that there's an element of like, who are we designing for? Okay, it's an institutional person. It's somebody that might come from the traditional finance, or it's somebody that's interested in Bitcoin, but if they're looking at Bitcoin proof of reserves and attestation, then they're maybe interested a little bit more in the financialization.
It's a different vibe. I agree with you. Yeah. And I feel honestly the same way. So at the Foundry, it's kind of the same vibe where it's heavily institutional. All of our customers are massive mining companies. It's not like Cash App brand. It's not like Cash App branding, right? Same with Unchained. It was like high net worth.
Yeah,
institutional
Unchained is very like that as well.
Yeah. Now I do think I'm curious what you think about this, but even like the institutional, like the more what do you call it, conservative brands, I feel like there's still an element of like craft and polish that you can inject into there. That it feels conservative, but it's you got a little bit of polish in there. I mean, do you think about that at all, or how much do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely. So just because something is institutional, I don't think that means that it has to be dull and boring. Yeah. I try to incorporate decorative elements when I can, but they're usually definitely on the more muted side. Like, I don't do a lot of blurs. I mean, we're talking like UI. Yeah. It's a lot of like subtle drop shadows, variants of grays on the text to create a kind of softer hierarchy between sections. So
a little motif here and there, maybe. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, things like that.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And then on the eCash side, that's probably very different, right? Because that's I'm thinking of like eNuts. I'm thinking of Cashew.me.
All the nut puns.
All the nut puns. First of all, that's very fun and interesting.
I think it might be getting played out though. Like
it probably
is it
probably.
Yeah. Okay.
Because
it was funny. Like it's been funny for like 2 years now. But
I will say the nut puns are a lot more fun than like the lightning puns. Like that's definitely played out.
Oh yeah.
All the lightning stuff is done. Like all the bit this, bit that, lightning stuff, that's all gone. But
for sure,
I think nuts it's fresh enough.
Yeah,
no one's really using it.
People still chuckle at a good nut pun.
Oh yeah, yeah. Hey, just a really quick break to tell you about the Studio 21 newsletter. If you're interested in Bitcoin and design, every month I highlight a few key pieces of Bitcoin or design related news or education. I think you're really gonna find it valuable. So if you're interested, take a look. Go to sahilc.com/newsletter, give it a subscribe, and look forward to seeing you there. Now back to the episode. So yeah, that's an interesting vibe. I mean, one of my biggest gripes, which I've told you about, and I've written about this too, is just like on the eCash UX side, I just don't want to think about eCash. I just don't want to know it exists. I was telling Kali too yesterday. I was just like, I just want to send and receive. Don't let me paste the token. Don't let me do anything. Do you think that's coming soon, or is that a little bit away, or still educational mode?
I think that's coming for the wallet that wants to do that. But I think the reality of where eCash is right now is that it's still very much on the experimental side. If you're using an eCash wallet, you have to talk. It's still beta software. Like people, let's not forget that.
Yeah, that's true.
It's only been around for a couple
Reckless.
years. Yeah. So I don't think there's been a wallet that has actually obliterated eCash terminology. Maybe the Fedi wallet is the closest I've seen to it, where it's just send and receive. And
Fedi is, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if you used Fedi recently, but like I was talking to Paul about this in the last episode, but. What I love the most about the way Fedi handles it is there's no like concept of lightning address or lightning invoice or actually even on-chain. What I was telling Paul was if you paste an on-chain address, there's nothing that says, oh, you can paste a lightning invoice or on-chain. It's just like paste a Bitcoin thing.
Yeah.
And it sends, and it's just like really magical, and I love that. But maybe to your point, it's maybe a little too early for that on the eCash side.
Well, I think for what they're building, maybe that makes sense for who they're targeting and what their use case is. For the Cashu protocol, I definitely think we'll get there, and but I'm still, I still use the word token, and there's a lot of technicality to this. There's like pay to public key and all these features and. So it hasn't really fully been abstracted away, but there's nothing stopping anyone from doing that, really. I'm working on a new wallet myself where I think I'll attempt to do that.
Yeah, I mean, what's been the hardest thing about that? Because whether it's eCash or for Hoseki, maybe we start with eCash, but like I remember designing for Unchained, there was, in a lot of ways, it's kind of like designing anything else because it's it's a dashboard, it's a this or that, it's a whatever.
Yeah, transaction history.
Yeah, transaction history. So in a lot of ways, maybe it's oversold, this idea of like, oh, Bitcoin UX is unique. But I think there are certain ways. Like I'm just thinking of Unchained. There was you're dealing with hardware wallets and you got to plug these things in, and then sometimes there's miscommunication. How do you handle that? So do you feel like there's anything on the eCash side that's like that today, where it's just like, oh, this is a pain?
Yeah, there is. I guess starting at like, I'll start at a high level, then I'll go into like a lower level detail.
Yeah.
So like, I think one of the hardest concepts that you're gonna face when you're interacting with eCash is that when you transact with money, you either send or receive money, and it's very atomic. It's very binary. Your money is in one of two things. You either have it, and you're sending it to someone, or they send it to you, and then you have it.
Yeah.
With eCash, there exists this whole kind of pending state of your money, where you can generate money, so you can take money out of your balance, out of your bank, and then you can give it to someone. But if that someone hasn't yet redeemed it, you can still take that money back. That money is still pending. So there's the kind of that psychological element of just because money has been subtracted from your bank account and you've given it to someone, doesn't mean the transaction is final. So that's kind of something you have to communicate with through either a pending token status or give the user the ability to be aware that just because you've generated money or sent it doesn't mean that it's been redeemed. that's kind of a unique thing to eCash. I think that doesn't exist.
That's fascinating.
In Bitcoin or Lightning, because Lightning is atomic. The payment either succeeds or it fails.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't really think about that too much because I remember seeing on Fedi, I believe if you send in like offline mode,
there's no way to call it back either.
There's no, I guess unless you paste the token again.
I haven't found a way to be able to do that.
Well, actually, so I think if you hit send and you hit paste, it doesn't make any sense. But if you hit send, you can receive the token. I tried that. It's weird, but when you hit send, and I think when you generate the token or whatever, it warns you. It gives you like a warning that, hey, this will leave your balance now.
Yeah, exactly. Press and hold to confirm. Then once it's gone, I haven't found a way to go back and reclaim it. Are you saying that you have to claim it before you have to save it in your clipboard before you press and hold?
And you hit send, and then you can like paste it, and then it'll be like, oh, you're redeeming a eCash token. So I'm guessing they're still figuring that out, or like maybe it's just not a popular use case.
But that's my guess. That's a decision that they made, to abstract that level of complexity away from the user. And I'm sure they have their reasons to.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, there's a lot of challenges there. On the Hoseki side, do you feel like it kind of feels maybe less complexity there, right? Because it's more just like a dashboard.
Yeah, there is. Can I say one more thing about Cashew and eCash?
Yeah.
So one of the great things about eCash is that this system works offline. So once you get some eCash, you basically get, let's just call them coins. They're like secrets in certain denominations to the power of 2. And then or it could be, you could have stuff that's not divisible by 2, I should say. So then when you want to create a token, it's a combination of these basically numbers that you have. And let's say that you have like 20 in one coin, and then like 5 in another coin, and you want to send like 24.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have enough because all you have is 25, right? So what you would do is send it to the mint, and then the mint would basically burn certain things or send you new denominations that you can then combine to get your token of 24. So all this happens in the background. The user never has to worry about this. But here's the thing. If you're offline and you try to basically create a token where the total amount of the token is not something that can be divisible by the amount of proofs that you have, it will actually fail. It won't do that because you'll have to be online to connect to the mint in order to get that. So this is kind of a unique edge case where you can tell people that eCash works offline, and it does, because if you had the right secrets or the right proofs that can add up to whatever token that you want to make, then yeah, that would totally work offline. But you could encounter the edge case where you might not have the right denominations that you need. And then in that case, you could be offline, and then you're like, whoa, why did my token creation fail? Like, eCash supposed to be offline. Right, what happens? Like, how do you communicate that to the user?
Wow.
I have to explain all that. That's like a challenge that I'm still kind of thinking through right now. Is like, how do you kind of like communicate that reality?
That's fascinating. And on that point, really quick, because Paul, when I was talking to Paul about this kind of idea of like telling the truth in design, I'm of the opinion, I'm maybe too extreme of the opinion that just like don't tell anyone anything. Just abstract it all away. I don't want to know. Just hide it away. It's almost like the Apple approach of like when your app crashes, they don't tell you anything. They don't even tell you it crashed.
Right.
It just like closes and it's like, oh, whoop, try again.
Yeah.
So I'm of that approach, but Paul's thinking more of like telling the truth. So where are you on that spectrum? Are you kind of like in the middle? Are you one way or the other?
I think it's important to guide the user and give them clear instructions on how they can fix the issue.
Yeah.
So something like in the situation I described, I think like the most honest way would be you must be online in order to generate this token.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. They don't need to hear about secrets, proofs, counters, denominations of 2.
Like, maybe not the why, but like this is what's the reality is.
This is what you need to do to solve it.
Yeah.
Like, this is what you need to do to fix this issue right now.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I always try to have my copy be is actionable to the user to very clearly tell them what they need to be doing. Yeah,
because I could see the other extreme where like a Bitcoin dev, no offense to Bitcoin devs, but they could do the other extreme where it's like a paragraph explaining all the details about what's happening.
Yeah, exactly. And then a list of all your proofs. That
exactly.
Don't need this. Yeah.
So much software is like that. So okay, I see what you're saying. This is something I'm personally struggling with, so I think this is an interesting conversation for me too. How much like testing do you do? Do you like how much do you shop around your work with users and get feedback versus there's some things that are kind of just table stakes and you just got to do the work and ship it. It's like, how do you strike that balance?
we're really fortunate where a lot of people are actually using Cashew, and they're actually very excitedly reporting bugs and things that have broken, oftentimes in my DMs. So I actually have like unsolicited user feedback that I get all the time about all kinds of stuff. And then there's also like a group. There's also like a Telegram group and stuff where people will leave feedback. And that's a super useful place to learn about like how people actually have encountered real problems. Like when they added a mint, but they changed the case. They did a capital A instead of a lowercase a. Now they have the same mint duplicated twice, one capital A, one lowercase a, and they're all confused. Like, okay, well, that's user testing basically that we got for free. User testing feedback that we got for free. But I don't spend a lot of time actively doing like user testing sessions. I kind of just like solicit a lot from the community because we have so much stuff to do.
Well, for sure. And it's also, it's kind of more of a, I mean, not just to say side project in a negative way, but it's just like, you have so much going on, obviously. And you have
and it's beta software and it's free. So
exactly. So it's a little bit harder to justify. I'm just thinking of like Foundry, for example. I'm thinking of my case. I've never been in a scenario where it's like a Facebook where you have millions of users and you can just kind of A/B test things.
Me neither.
Okay, you too. Okay,
I would love to.
Yeah,
it's fun.
It's a very interesting thing because
like deploy different fucking like dashboards, and deploy different like landing pages, like see what converts.
For me, it's always just been like I don't know if you've read Just Enough Research. It's a really good book. It's Just Enough Research. Like just getting like 5 customers, copying around, see what they think. That's kind of what I've been doing, and sometimes I'm like, should I be doing more? I don't know.
But I know about that just enough number, the Nielsen-Norman number, the diminishing returns after 5 or 6. I don't know what it is.
Exactly. Like that. So I was talking to Paul about this too, but like, do you have any hot takes on design? Like, something that maybe most designers or some designers would maybe disagree with or anything like that? You don't have to, but
I guess one of them is I've had this take kind of for a while, and it would kind of like piss off like my teachers when I was in school, is that I think that like lo-fi prototyping sometimes can be like very often underrated. I don't know how hot this is, but like if you have a robust design system, I actually think you're wasting time doing like lo-fi wireframes on like balsamic or something like that.
Oh yeah.
And the extreme end of this is a developer. I've actually heard people saying that like just like even designing on Figma is actually like a waste of time, and you should just be in code as soon as possible. So you should actually be prototyping and building like in code.
In code,
yeah. Because so that's like the extreme end of that argument. I'm not sure I agree with that, but sometimes I think that there's a lot of theater in design where people are, let me present my lo-fis, and then now let me present my little cute hand-drawn sketches and how I transition them into mid-fis, and then now.
It's like they're trying to build a college portfolio.
And sometimes I see that and I'm just like, this is not necessary.
That's BS.
Yeah, like
you're making this up. You didn't actually do this. You're just,
So sometimes I think that people can be too rigid about the process.
Yeah.
And I think the most important thing is actually to start like shipping as soon as possible, and actually start like building things as soon as possible. So if you're fast enough and you're really good at Figma, and Shift A auto layout, like I know how to do groups, I know how to, Command Option G to like, set a frame and whatever. So if you know your Figma shortcuts and you have a robust design system, I can jump in there and throw something together like pretty quick.
Yeah.
And I don't need to be like lo-fiing on paper and pencil.
For sure. And maybe it's just to add to what you're saying, because I agree. Maybe it's worth thinking about like, what is the point of even Figma at all? And to me, and I don't know if you agree or not, but like to me, the point of a design tool is to make iteration. Like, where can you make the most iterations and the most trials to test something? And if you can do that fastest in code,
as quick as possible. Yeah, exactly.
But like for me, I'm the fastest in Figma. I can make 15 different variations.
Exactly. Yeah.
And whatever, if paper is faster for you, like then freaking do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good take. And I don't know if that's a hot take, but it probably is. It probably is like a medium take.
It's a medium take.
It's a lukewarm take.
Yeah, it's a lukewarm take.
No, but I agree. I appreciate it.
I'm trying to think if I have anything like super spicy. I probably do. I just can't come to me. If it comes back to me, I'll let you know.
Come back to it. One thing I think is always interesting for people to hear, and selfishly is interesting for me to hear, is like where are you learning new stuff? Because there's always new design, like whether it's you want to turn around?
Sure. Yeah,
let's turn around.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your question.
No, you're good. Where are you learning, whether it's like visual design trends or like new tooling or that kind of stuff? Is it Twitter? Is it what is it? What are you doing? Podcasts?
This is a hot take of shitcoin apps.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a great take.
Yeah.
That's a very good take.
I learned a lot from Solana.
That is a hot take,
Yeah.
but it's a really good take, I think.
I think like Solana has some absolutely fire design.
Wow.
I think some NFT wallets have some really, really well thought out
Yes.
design patterns because they have all that shitcoin money. So I actually learned a lot through like interacting with like Ethereum or Solana wallets that are on the cutting edge, like Phantom and stuff like that.
Okay, so if anyone's listening has been to Austin Design Club, they will know, and they're gonna hate me for bringing this up again.
Yeah.
But have you used Family?
Yeah, Family Wallet's
Okay.
great. I was literally just in the car with Kale yesterday, and I was showing him Family Wallet. I was like, dude, check this out.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you read their whole
Benji's whole case study. They talk about like the bottom sheet and how like they thought that how dynamically they thought through the bottom sheet and how it should change with every interaction and be different.
Exactly. How the height changes with every
interaction. The height changes, the color changes depending on like I was like, damn.
It's insane.
It's fire. And, I was like,
yeah, that's a great take. And even at Design Club, we were like, why can't we do this? Why can't Bitcoiners
we should be like competing at this standard.
Yeah. And I don't know what that is. Maybe that's something like you and I and other designers, we should be doing this, but also maybe it's just a matter of like, we need more money in Bitcoin to get to that.
I also think founders should, because like you can't bury your head in the sand and only use Bitcoin products.
Yes.
And just not be aware that, hey, like this is what the Ethereum people are interacting with.
Well said.
And then they're going to come look at your Bitcoin wallet. Phoenix, no offense to Phoenix. Phoenix is probably one of the best like Lightning wallets that you can use. But like they're going to come from a wallet like Family and look at Phoenix and hear us raving about how great Phoenix is. And look at us like we're boomers or like we're in the Stone Age. Or to put it nicely, like we're not delivering at the level of quality that the consumer has come to expect.
It's not even close. And it's like the polish is not even close. And sometimes the excuse I hear is like, oh yeah, we're early. Or sometimes I'll hear people say like, oh yeah, but who's the audience you're targeting? Like we're not at mass adoption or whatever. So we're just early and we're testing. But like that to me is not a valid excuse.
Yeah.
I mean, again, to your point, if other ecosystems have this level of quality, like why can't we?
I mean, it's like what I said. It doesn't matter. Like people are expecting this. This is what they have when they interact with Cash App with their, Wells Fargo. I don't know about Wells Fargo, I haven't used it, but like whatever their neobank account, right?
Yeah, Revolut or whatever.
Revolut, yeah. But this is what people are expecting. So it's not optional to deliver something that's like lower than that, in my opinion.
Now, unless clearly your target audience is like, okay, I'm building Sparrow for like the most technical people. Like, fine, okay. But then you should be intentional about that. It's like, okay.
Well, I actually think Craig Raw is actually one of the best Bitcoin designers ever.
Ooh, that's an interesting take.
I think Sparrow is absolutely amazing.
I'm a heavy Sparrow user, so I feel that.
That UTXO visualization.
Oh, that
you know that like sure like,
exactly the inputs and outputs.
Yeah.
Just no, I love Sparrow. I've been using Nunchuck actually a lot lately.
Sparrow's great.
Very good, thank you. Maybe just to kind of start wrapping things up, like, what do you think is the most fun part, and maybe the least fun part about being a designer, about the job, whether it's at Hoseki or Cashew or whatever? Like, what's the most fun and what's like the least fun? And I'm thinking in terms of maybe it's like, thinking of user flows. Maybe it's the polished visual design. Maybe it's like, what is it? What
I guess what comes to mind is I'll give you an answer that's maybe not design, but it's the culture of Cashew. It's like, if you follow the people that build, use, or design Cashew, if you follow us on Twitter and see how we interact, like, we're very honest about who we are as people and how we talk and, what we find funny and interesting. And with Cashew, there's just like this group of people that are very honestly themselves and very much are clear about their values and where they come from and what they're doing. And to be a part of that community, and I find that the users also that use Cashew wallets at this stage have that as well. That's my favorite part. Is really I get really excited. And I feel very lucky when I think about this time right now in Cashew specifically, and how lucky I am to be a part of it and see it kind of evolve, all because of the culture. Yeah, it's like culture. It's like I don't want to say customer because it's not really customer. It's like it's kind of like customer interaction almost. Yeah, because I could see that with. I mean, even if you're a designer at Fold or even like in my case Foundry, I could see that where it's like, man, if my customers really, really love it and there's like an excitement there, it almost makes you more excited to do that or to build for them. So yeah, I empathize. What sucks? What sucks? What's hard? Yeah, what's hard is sometimes communicating like the the reasons why you think that this design is the right one to go. And I think this is kind of a self-reflection on my part. It's communicating the reasoning for why I design things in the way that they do. And a lot of the times what I've come to realize is that I'll have the counters in my head. I'll know that when I present these designs to people, they'll probably have the same thought or initial thought that I had, and I maybe have ran through that thought and did an iteration, but then abandoned it for this reason. But I didn't come prepared to articulate that. And I have to kind of dig it out in my head. So this is kind of like a design communication issue. So I think the hardest part, the most challenging part for me is becoming better at communicating the why of my designs. And that's something that I think I'm getting a lot better at. And I'm trying to do a much better job. So it's about explaining like how I got to this design more in a better way than just having a bunch of artboards at the bottom of the canvas that are under draft.
Yeah.
Like, because they're not going to look at all that. I need to, like, as I'm running through design, I need to explain.
Yeah. So how are you tactically thinking about doing this? Or at least it sounds like you're trying to improve it. So what are you thinking about doing that? How are you doing that?
Being more thoughtful about what I display in front of them. And then as I'm running through it, like explaining like the rationale and having in that explanation, embedding a little bit of what I expect to be the common counters.
Yes.
For while I'm running through the rationale. In the past, I didn't do that.
So almost like you're preparing what the questions or pushbacks are going to be.
It's like I'm pairing the strikes before they even come.
Yes.
And what I think is really good about that is that like when you save time, but also like it builds confidence in the people that are reviewing your design, because they see, oh, this person has already thought about that.
He's thought about it.
And you know, like so that I think that matters a lot.
And I don't know if you feel this way, but I feel like a lot of, and this is probably for any job, but it's just a lot of it comes down to like trust in the relationship.
Yeah.
And the more trust you have, the more they'll be like, oh, okay, I don't have to maybe question this deep every single time.
Exactly. So
but you got to start with what you're doing.
This reinforces that, because when they see that you're thoughtful about your designs and that you're prepared to counter and you're prepared to explain, and you are the expert. And then this leads to that trust that you're explaining, where you know, they won't have that initial question, or if they do, they'll trust that you've made the right decision, you've thought through it.
Yeah, well said. I think one thing that I do, and I'm certainly not perfect at this, I'm also working on it, but one thing I found that's helpful is like when I'm making decisions and trying different variations, I will literally in context, I have these like little cards, these card components, and I'll just literally pull up a new card and just like type down what the reason why, like pros and cons of this variation.
Yeah,
and then
I need to do better at that. I've been doing implementation notes.
Yes, yeah.
To the left of my artboards, but those are really more tailored towards the devs. I need to do a better job of like kind of like design notes or whatever.
Yeah, it's like other stakeholder management.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, dude, this was like actually, this is really exciting to me. I feel like I learned something new.
Yeah, dope, man. This is fun, dude. I love this concept.
Yeah, I hope people like it. And I mean, first of all, I hope the audio comes out okay.
Yeah.
I hope people find it interesting, even if you're not a designer and you're just like trying to get into design, or maybe you're a developer. I mean, so many people that come to Austin Bitcoin Design Club are front-end devs or like PMs or whatever. So I don't know. I think that's exciting. But yeah, maybe just, I guess wrapping up, where can people find you? Yeah, like where people can say hi, find you.
Well, you can find
Twitter.
me on Nostr.
Oh, Nostr,
My NIP5 is Erik, ERIK, at uierik.com. I'm on Twitter, uxerik_. You can also go to my website, uierik.com. That's Erik with a K, and then all my stuff is on there. So yeah, I think my DMs are open on every platform. So I'm tweeting, I'm posting on Nostr all day. I will never stop posting. Shout out to the internet. I love posting, and I love the internet.
I think I see Erik posting a lot about your eCash explorations and stuff, so I like that. That's a lot of fun. So yeah, check it out. Thanks for listening, and hope to see you next time.
Cheers, man. Thanks for having me.
Cheers. Okay, that's it for this walk and talk conversation on Bitcoin design. I really, really hope you got something interesting nuggets that you pulled from it. If you liked it, and if you want to, feel free to give it a review, share it with someone who might find it interesting. And genuinely, if you have any feedback, positive or negative, I really, really want to hear about it. So find me on Twitter at SahilC0, and I look forward to seeing you next time.